Overview of Transaction Processing and ERP System. I am Rebecca Armakiling, your discussant for today. We have 5 unit learning objectives. Number 1, describe the data processing cycle or DPC and identify the rules of each part of DPC in organizing business activities and providing information to users. Number 2, distinguish and describe the documents and procedures used to collect and process transaction data. Number 3, enumerate and explain the ways information is stored in computer-based information. Fourth is discuss the types of information that an accounting information system can provide. And the last, discuss how organizations use enterprise resource planning or ERP system to process transactions and provide information. Data processing cycle is a set of operations responsible for the transformation of raw data into useful information. So it makes useful information for decision making, especially for business owners. So as an accountant, we are the user of this AI ERP or AIS system. We are also the designer. We are also the auditor. So DPC is very important, and we need to understand the process of it because of course we need to interact now with the system analyst to help answer the questions such as what data should be entered and stored by the organization, who should have access to them, how should data be organized, updated, stored, accessed, and retrieved, how can scheduled and unanticipated information needs to be met, and of course to answer this and other related questions, data processing concepts really explain now that we need to understand the concept on this so that we can, of course, we can identify even if it is manual or computerized, we need to identify and use, identify the transactions efficiently and effectively. Now, data are raw facts. So example of data are the following. It could be the date and time the sale occurred. It could be the employee who made the sale, the checkout clerk who processed the sale, or a checkout register where the sale was processed, the item sold, the quantity of each item sold, the list price and the actual price of each item sold, the amount, the total amount of the sale, the delivery instructions, and for credit sales, it could be customer name, customer bill to, and ship to address. These data are captured from the data source document. So we have an example of data source document here, which is the purchase order. So all the data that is captured in the source document will be encoded in our data processing cycle. Our data processing cycle has 4 steps: data input, storage, process, and the information output. Information is the process data. Now, let's go to the data input. In data input, we capture data from a business activity. The data is collected about each activity of interest, the resources affected, and the people who are participating in that activity. And then we want the data that are captured are accurate and complete. So we must utilize automation as much as possible. Our source documents are automated, or we will design a well-designed turnaround documents. And of course, we have also some data entry screens or the data entry check. Again, this data that is encoded or inputted in our data processing cycle must comply with the policies of the company, say approving or verifying the transaction. So an example here is the programming the system to check the customer credit limit and payment history, as well as inventory status before confirming customer sale. The data input captured is coming from the paper-based source document. So the source document can also be turnaround document. So example here is the sales order form. So the data from paper-based will eventually need to be transferred to the AIS, as also the turnaround document, which is sent from the organization to customer, say for example the sales invoice, and a source document which is returned by the customer to the organization, say the delivery ticket. So in every activity we have different source document. We have the revenue cycle. For the revenue cycle, our source document there are the sales order when we take the customer order. We have the delivery ticket or the bill of lading when we deliver or ship the order, the remittance advice or list, the deposit slip, and the credit memo. For the expenditure cycle, we have the purchase requisition when there is requesting of items, the purchase order for ordering the items, the receiving report in receiving the items, and we have also the check or electronic fund transfer. And for human resource cycle, we have the W4 form, the time cards, and the job time tickets or the time sheets. So when we capture data or the data input, we want to make sure that the data that are encoded in the system are accurate and complete. So usually we want to automate our source data. So automating the source data by using a device that captures transaction data in machine readable form at the time and the place of the origin. So example here are ATMs by banks, the POS, the point of sale, used in retail store, the barcode scanners in the warehouse. And for the turnaround document, so we want also to make sure that it is machine readable. So our goal here is to make our data input accurate. So if you happen to see your utility bill like the double line, you will see that there is a barcode there. So when we go to the double line, the machine will read those barcode, and then your records will be encoded in the system. Again, this is to reduce the risk of capturing incomplete data. So users can also purchase pre-numbered source document, or by having the system automatically assign a sequential number to each new transaction. So upon implementing this, any missing document may easily be traced by looking at the number series of the source document and identifying those that cannot be found, because we want to make sure that the data that is encoded in the system are reliable, accurate, complete. We want to make sure that when we process those data, they will be processed into useful information for decision makers. That's really the goal of data input. Again, the goal in the DPC is to capture data input with accuracy, and there is also proper control. So we can achieve it if we have a well-designed source document that can ensure the data captured. So to make it accurate, you may provide instruction and prompts in the source document, or when you encode it in Excel, um, uh, just to avoid human errors. Make sure that when we encode data, we will not type the data, because if you will type it, so it is prone to human error. So you may use check boxes or drop down boxes in encoding the data. So you may use the validation tool in your Excel. And then you want also that your data are complete. So it could be supported by internal control, and we have also the pre-numbered documents, just to avoid that the transactions are misplaced or there are missing documents. So you may use pre-numbered documents. And then of course we have the data entry checks for internal control to support that the data are valid, the data are accurate when you encode it in the system. You may also use the automation process in data input. Like here, we have the RFID tag, and of course, we have the barcode system. So that will eliminate the risk that your data are prone to errors. Data storage. A company's data are one of its most important resources. Therefore, we need to properly arrange the data in its storage. So we have the two types of AIS storage, the paper-based storage, and we have also the computer-based storage. Accountants need to understand how these data are organized and stored in AIS and how they can be accessed. So they need to know how to manage the data for maximum corporate use. So for the paper-based data, in a computer-based storage, we need to identify the terminologies. We need to understand these terminologies. So we have the entity, the attributes, the fields, the records, the file, and of course we have also the database. So an entity is something about which information is stored, such as employees, inventory items, and customers. So it may be a person, place, or thing, which is referred to a noun, or it is something an organization wishes to store data about. So in our example, we have three entities here: XYZ company, ABC company, and the QRS company. So we are recording a company, either this is customer, no, customer company, customers in the form of customer per company. And then each entity has attributes or characteristics of interest that are stored in our database. So these are the facts about the entity. So in our example, the customer has particular attribute, the customer number, the customer name, the address, the credit limit, and the balance. They are the attributes of every customer. So if it is an Excel format, the column represent the attributes, while the rows represent the records. So records are a group of related attributes about an entity. So in our example, we have three entities and we have also three records. So that is records. On the other hand, the fields, these are the attributes, they are where attributes are stored. So if it is an Excel, every cell is a field. And then we have also here file. File is a group of related records. So here, this is a file of the customer. So we have three records of the customer with each attributes. And then with each attributes, when it is in Excel, it is per column. The attribute is per column, while the records is per row. A file is a group of related records. So a master file, like a ledger in a manual AIS, stores cumulative information about the organization. You have also inventory and equipment master file, which store information about the important organizational resources. So customer, supplier, and employee master file. These are the important agents from whom the organization interact. Master files are permanent and they exist across fiscal period. However, individual master file records may change frequently. Let's say individual customer account balance are updated to reflect new sales transactions and payment received. A transaction file contains a record of individual business transaction that occurred during a specific time. It is similar to a journal in a manual AIS. So we have the daily sales transaction file and cash receipts file. Both files will update the individual customer account balance in the customer master file. So transaction files are not permanent, while the master file is permanent. This transaction file may not be needed beyond the current fiscal period. However, they are usually maintained for a specified period for a backup purposes.
And then we have also a database. This is a set of interrelated, centrally coordinated file. And in our QuickBooks, we have the accounts receivable file, which is combination of customer sales analysis and related files to form a customer database.
Coding techniques. Data in ledgers is organized logically using coding techniques. So this is a systematic assignment of numbers or letters to items to classify and organize them. So we have sequence coding, the block coding, the group coding, and the mnemonic coding. So with sequence coding, items are numbered consecutively to account for all items. Any missing items cause a gap in the numerical sequence. So our example here is pre-numbered checks, invoices, and purchase order. For the block code system, so blocks of numbers are reserved for specific categories of data. So example here is the major product categories. So 10,000 to 199,999 is for electric range. Okay, user can identify an item type and model using the code numbers. Other example includes ledger accounts, which is by account type, and employees, which is by department. For um, for block and for customer numbers, which is block by region, so that's block coding. And then we have also the group coding. Here, two or more subgroups of digits are used to code items, so they are often used in conjunction with block codes. So our example at the right side of group code is we have the digit position and its particular meaning. So we have 1 to 2 for product line. 3 is for color, 4 to 5 is year of manufacture, 6 to 7 is optional features. So when we group code to the item or to the inventory, we have 1241000, so meaning it is a dishwasher with white color and then manufactured in 2010 and no optional options, no options available. And then we have also the uh, mnemonic code. So mnemonic codes, we have letters and numbers, are interspersed to identify an item. So this is derived from the description of the item and is usually easy to memorize. And then, but we have the guidelines, no, in making a better coding system. So the code should be consistent with its intended use, which requires that the code designer determine the desired system outputs prior to selecting the code. And of course, there is an allocation for growth. So for example, using 3-digit employee code for a fast-growing company. So you can use that one that you will tingnan mo talaga yan, no? But what if kung lalaki na yung company ninyo, so there is an estimate portion for the growth of that particular item, particular product and employees. So we have also the chart of account, which is usually they are using a block coding system. This is a sample chart of account of S&S company. So they are using a block code system. So they categorize their account titles by their elements in the financial statements. So we have the current assets, the non-current assets, the liabilities, the equity accounts, the revenues, expenses, and the summary accounts. The good thing of block coding system is we can identify the types of the account titles, and we are very sure that they are classified into their respective categories.
Once business activity data have entered into the system, they must be processed to keep the database current. So there are four types of data processing activities. So we have the creating new records, for example, adding a newly hired employee to the payroll database, adding customers, adding suppliers, adding item list. Second is reading, retrieving, or viewing the existing data. Third is updating previously stored data. Say in our figure 2.4, this is the updating the existing data of the accounts receivable with the sales transactions. The fourth one is deleting records. Say you want to delete all vendors that is no longer doing business within the company. When we update the data, we can update it through batch processing. So it accumulates transactions records into groups or batches for processing at a regular interval, such as daily or weekly. And the records are usually sorted into some sequence, such as numerically or alphabetically before processing. This batch processing is cheaper and more efficient than immediate processing or online processing. Thus, company usually use this processing method, the batch processing. However, there are companies who update each transaction as it occurs, which is referred to as online real time, because it ensures that stored information is always current, thereby increasing its decision-making usefulness. It is also more accurate because data input errors can be corrected in real time or refused. It also provides significant competitive advantage. So we have online batch processing and online real-time processing. The online batch processing, there is a delay, but however, this is still online, not on the offline batch processing. So most of the company like the airline business, they are doing online real-time processing. This is the last process of the data processing cycle, the information output. Our data output have two types. So we have the soft copy, which is displayed on screen, and the hard copy, which is printed on paper. So usually our data output are in the form of documents, reports, and query. So when they say documents, these are the records of transactions or other company data. Some such as checks, invoices, which are transmitted to external parties. Others such as the receiving reports and the purchases. We have also the report, which is a system output organized in meaningful fashion that is used by employees to control operation activities, by managers to make decisions and design strategies, and by investors and creditors to understand a company's business activities. And company or the business owner can also request query, a request for the database to provide the information needed to deal with a problem or answer a question. So the information is retrieved, displayed or printed and or analyzed as requested. So example there is asking for saleable product, asking for loyal customers. So you can get those information from a query language in your database if they are not included in the reports, no, in the normal reports of the system. Thank you, and once again, don't forget to subscribe this YouTube channel. We have also recorded discussions in our playlist, so please view them and then hope it will help you in your learnings and your studying.